Okay, so let's just start here. Were you both satisfied with the outcome here?
I don't think there was a satisfying outcome. I guess because not only an apology was given, but way after the fact. Like, you know, by the end of the day, after we went through having to see him say he didn't want to apologize, that he wasn't going to, and that he would be willing to step down instead of apologizing, and then for him to then step down and apologize. I think I was confused because I was hoping that we could get an apology at the start of the day so that he could host. But then him not apologizing and stepping down were like the worst of both worlds, I feel like.
So do you feel like he should be disqualified from hosting the Oscars because of the things that he said in the past?
I think that if he would have apologized for it, you know, genuinely in the beginning of the day, that there could have been room for him to still host.
Gotcha.
But I do think that doubling down on those, you know, those statements, and at least not maybe being understanding as to why a community would need to hear the apology if it was new information to them. I thought that was kind of a terrible thing to do. And I think after that, I was like, I don't see a way for him to be able to host.
There's no going back, yeah. Marie, where are you at?
I feel like Kevin Hart tweeted these things in 2009, right? Or 10, 11. We were all a little bit dumber 10 years ago, right? And certain things we used to say, like I grew up in a time when everything was gay, right? Like a teacher would give you homework and you'd be like, homework on the weekend? That's gay. Like you can't even say that anymore. You know, so he tweeted these things, and as comics, we're always pushing and testing the boundaries to see how far we can go. And in 2009, when he tweeted that, it was fine.
Right.
Right? And then it wasn't, and he apologized for it. And then this comes up, and because he said that he had apologized already, that's why he didn't want to apologize again. And it's like, so every time you guys want to dig this back up, I got to apologize?
I do think, though, that when you say something offensive, right, I think there's PC culture, but then there's being straight out offensive. Like, I don't think no matter what decade you say the N-word, it's an issue. No matter what decade or year you say the F-word, it's an issue. And if you have to apologize to that group over and over, anytime that they need that apology, I think that's what you do when you've done something offensive.
But here's the gray area a little bit, though, even with the N-word, because and the F-word, too, there are some people in the gay community who still use that F-word that Kevin Hart used in his tweets.
Right.
So I think there might be some confusion. Is it okay for some people to say it and not for other people to say it? And why is that?
Well, I think I think that's within the community, right? Just like in the same way within the black community that people use the N-word, and we can use it with each other, but it's a thing for that community. You know what I mean? I think it applies to the F-word, and I think that it's the same type of situation there.
I can agree with that. I feel like if as comics, we're seeing that we can get away with less and less things, right? And for us, we just want to see, we're trying to make things funny that are happening currently or what things that we see. So if it was okay then we just go, what's the cutoff?
Well, I think this is what a lot of people are wondering, right? Like if we extrapolate this out and this culture continues, I mean, does that mean that nobody's going to be qualified to do anything? Does that mean that people have to apologize for everything that they've done in the past? Because I guess I'm just wondering, like,
where's the line?
Yeah,
I do feel like there's a big gray area. I think there's a big place in between saying fully offensive slurs and not being able to joke about anything. I think there's a wide gap there with plenty of room to play with.
But then who decides who can play and who can't play and how much we can play?
Well, and just to be clear, you bring up such a good point, Sylvia. Him alluding to violence, I personally don't think that he actually meant he was going to become violent with his son, but that violence exists, and gay people and people in the LGBTQ community actually deal with that violence on a regular basis, so I can understand why that was extremely problematic. But I'm wondering for you, Marie, like, in this environment, are you scared to go on stage?
No, because I talk about things that directly and specifically affect me. I'm telling my truth. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like you can't tell me that I can't say what I'm saying because it happened to me. Or I'm telling you what happened to me. I'm also not, like, none of my comedy involves dropping a dollhouse on anybody. So like that's not my ministry. But like
and I feel like there's plenty of ways to beef. I love comedy. And I love when we, especially, you know, I love watching black comedians joke about experiences in being black and even racism and all these things. And I can admit that if I saw a white comedian making some of those jokes, I would feel differently. which is why I do think that comics should be able to play. But when you want to cross certain lines, you should keep it within your own community, because I think that's when you have a better understanding of the barometer there.
Yeah.
About what's...
One question that I want to leave you guys with. Do these public takedowns, and we've seen a lot of these takedowns over the past year or so, do you think that these work to make the world a more inclusive place?
I think they work to make the world a place where less people have to deal with being deal with being oppressed in a way. And I think sometimes we think certain things are just a word, but certain mindsets and casual homophobia, like, it leads to bigger issues, violence, for a lot of people in those communities. And so I do think it's not about always just being offensive, but it's about keeping certain communities safe. And I think that we should be more alert to that correlation and stop making it just about, words and words, because words mean things and they have effects.
Marie, you want to wrap us up?
Words definitely mean things, but I mean, I think that for me, first of all, I already scrubbed my Twitter knowing that I was going to be here. I deleted everything older than a year old. So you could look on my Twitter right now. There's nothing. I mean, it's probably still some problematic things, but I just think it's making us smarter, but also making us a little bit more fearful of, like, things that we would not have thought about being offensive in the past, right? We have to be a little bit more careful. We got to be a little bit slower. We got to be a little bit, and I don't even know if I can say slower. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be a little bit more careful about what we're saying, but we also have to let people be the creative people that they are, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Marie, Sylvia, thank you both so much.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.